A sleek black car pulled up on the narrow dirt road, kicking dust into the air. The engine stopped, and the door opened with a soft click. Tiana stepped out. Her heels sank slightly into the soft ground. The village was quiet. Chickens scattered. Children paused their play. Market women lifted their heads, squinting in confusion. No one dressed like this. No one looked like this. Tiana wore a long designer gown, her silky brown hair flowing over her shoulders. One hand held her purse. The other rested protectively over her belly. She took a slow breath, eyes scanning the village. "He's in there," she whispered to herself. "With them." She started walking. Each step was careful, firm. The people stared, but she didn't care. Her mind raced with questions, with pain, with hope. Then she saw her, a little girl, no more than 6 years old, standing near a yam stand, laughing with another child. She wore a soft pink frock, her hair braided in a neat high bun. Her dimples showed as she smiled. Her green eyes sparkled in the sunlight. Tiana stopped walking. Her heart skipped a beat. Those eyes, that smile, that face. It was like looking at Micah in miniature. She clutched her stomach again, tighter this time. "Oh my God," she breathed. "That's her?" For a moment, she forgot everything else. The ring, the village, even Grace. She was staring at the little girl who had Micah's eyes, and she was frozen. Tiana didn't wait for permission. She walked straight up to the small hut and pushed the wooden door open. It creaked loudly. The air inside smelled of herbs and smoke. It was dim, quiet. Grace looked up from the mat on the floor. Her hand rested on her knee, her breath slow and shallow. Her eyes narrowed when she saw the woman standing in her doorway. "Tiana," she said softly. Hope peeked out from behind the curtain, her tiny hands clutching the cloth. When she saw Tiana, she stepped back quickly and hid behind her mother. Tiana stepped inside, heels clicking against the uneven floor. She didn't shout. Her voice was calm, steady. "I came here to say something," she said. "Not to fight." Grace didn't speak. She only watched. Tiana's hand slid down to her belly again, resting there with care. "I'm pregnant," she said. "With Micah's child?" Grace blinked. Her face didn't change. Not at first. "I thought you should know," Tiana added, her voice sharp now. "Before he makes a choice you can't undo." Grace stood, slowly, using the wall for support. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I see." Hope tugged at her mother's skirt. Tiana looked around the small room. The worn blanket, the clay water jug, the broken stool. So different from her world. But Grace stood tall, even in weakness. And Tiana still felt unsure. There were no screams, just silence, thick and heavy. Grace didn't raise her voice. She didn't move forward. She didn't flinch. She looked at Tiana with steady eyes. "I raised my child alone," she said, calm and clear. "If you have to, so will you." Her words cut through the silence like a blade wrapped in silk. Tiana opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She wasn't ready for that answer. She expected anger, jealousy, fear. But Grace gave her something else. Strength. Hope peeked up at her mother again. The tension in the room was thick, but the little girl didn't understand it fully. She only saw that her mother's body had stiffened. Her hands had started shaking. Grace took a slow breath, then another. But the third didn't come easily. She coughed, once, twice, deep and heavy, from her chest. Hope rushed to her side, her small arms wrapping around Grace's waist. "Mama?" she whispered. "Mama, sit down." Grace tried to smile but couldn't hold it. She leaned on the wall and slowly sank back onto the mat. Hope knelt beside her, rubbing her back just like she'd seen the aunties do in the market. Tiana stood still, watching everything. She had walked in feeling powerful. But now she saw the truth. Grace was not just a mother. She was a warrior. And Hope, that child, carried her fire. Tiana didn't speak. She couldn't. Something inside her was shifting. The door creaked open again. Micah stepped inside. The moment he entered, everything paused. Time, breath, thought. His eyes moved slowly across the room. He saw Grace, sitting weakly on the mat, hand on her chest. He saw Tiana, standing, tall in the corner, arms crossed over her belly. His heart stopped. Hope looked up, her face lighting up instantly. "Daddy!" She ran to him. Micah dropped to one knee just in time to catch her. He wrapped his arms around her tightly, closing, his eyes for 1 second, just one, trying to feel something solid in this storm. Then he looked up, at Grace, at Tiana, at the truth between them. Tiana spoke, her voice calm but direct. "You're a father. Again." Micah blinked. Once, then again. He looked at Tiana's hand resting over her stomach, then at Grace, who looked down, avoiding his eyes. He tried to stand, couldn't. He sat down instead, right there on the floor. Hope climbed into his lap, not understanding the silence, just happy he was back. Micah placed one hand around her shoulders. His other hand lifted slowly, as if reaching for something, for someone. But then froze, mid-air. He didn't speak. He couldn't. 2 women, 2 children, 2 lives pulling him in opposite directions. And for the first time, Micah had no answer. The silence didn't last long. Grace was the first to speak. "You don't have to fix everything, Micah," she said softly. "But if you're going to choose, do it with your heart, not your guilt." Her voice was tired, but her words were strong. Micah looked at her, pain in his eyes. Before he could respond, Tiana stepped forward. "No," she said. "He doesn't get to choose with his heart alone." Her voice didn't shake. "He's a father of 2 children now. 2, not 1. Micah glanced down at Hope in his lap. She looked up at him, smiling, completely unaware of the war going on above her head. He looked up at Tiana again. His lips parted, then closed. He turned to Grace, opened his mouth, then stopped. Every word felt like a betrayal. To one woman, to one child, to one future. He stood slowly, gently placing Hope beside Grace. "I never meant for this to happen," he said finally. Tiana crossed her arms. "And I never meant to beg." She replied, "But here I am, because I'm carrying your child." Micah stepped toward her, but she held up a hand. "I don't need you to marry me out of duty," she said. "I'm willing to co-parent, but I will not be discarded like I never mattered." Micah didn't speak. Tiana looked at Grace, then at the little girl on her lap. "I just want my child to be loved, not hidden." The room went quiet again. This time, even Hope felt it. The hut faded. The past returned. 2 years ago, a courtroom full of flashing cameras, reporters screaming his name, lawyers whispering, shaking their heads. No one wanted to be seen beside Micah. He was being accused of fraud, a deal gone wrong. The headlines said it all. Youngest billionaire, biggest fall. But she showed up. Tiana walked in wearing a white suit, her head high, her face bare. No makeup, no fear. She took his hand in front of everyone. When they dragged his name through the news, she posted a photo of them together with the caption, "I stand with him." When sponsors pulled out, she put her name and money behind his foundation. When his world shook, she stayed. Back then he had broken down in her arms, whispering into her neck, "You saved me." She didn't do it for fame. She didn't love the billionaire. She loved the broken man, the one who couldn't sleep, the one who cried in silence, the one who thought everything was over. She believed in him when the world didn't. And now, she stood in a dusty hut, staring at the man she once put back together, while another woman held his child. The memory faded. Tiana's eyes blinked back to the present. She didn't say it aloud, but it echoed in her mind. "You said I saved you, but you forgot who I was." Micah stepped outside the hut. The air felt heavy. He took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. The rain had stopped. The clouds were still, like they were holding their breath too. His mind was spinning. 2 women, 2 children, 2 paths. He walked a few steps forward, needing space, needing silence. That's when he saw them. At the edge of the village, a boy, about 7, was chasing a soccer ball barefoot. Laughing, his father stood nearby, clapping and calling out, "Good kick! Try again!" The boy turned and ran straight into his father's arms. Micah froze. His throat tightened. He remembered something. A voice from his childhood. His own father's voice. "One day, you'll be a man who carries something bigger than money." Micah glanced down at his wrist. The watch gleamed. Black leather strap, gold rim. His father's last gift before passing. For years it reminded him to build an empire. Now, it reminded him what he could lose. Slowly he unbuckled it. He held it in his palm. Watched the second hand move. Like a heart beating in metal. Then he placed it in his pocket, no longer on display, no longer driving him. He looked back at the hut, back at the women, back at the child who ran into his arms without knowing the full story. "Am I strong enough to do this right?" he whispered. He didn't have the answer, but he was ready to try. Micah stepped back into the hut. His face was different now, softer, clearer, like a storm had passed inside him. He didn't speak right away. He looked at Grace, then at Tiana, then at Hope, who sat quietly near her mother's lap. "I need you both to sit," he said gently. They did. The air was still. No raised voices, just hearts beating. Micah stood in front of them, hands by his sides, voice steady. "I will be a father to both children," he said. "I will love them, support them, protect them. That's my duty, and my choice." He paused, then turned slightly toward Grace. "But I will build my home," he continued, "where love already lives, with hope, with grace." Grace didn't speak. Her eyes welled with tears, but she stayed still, steady like always. Tiana sat up straighter, her jaw tensed for a moment, but she didn't scream. She didn't curse. She nodded. Then she stood, slowly brushing her gown down with her hand. Her voice was low, but firm. "Then give my child your name," she said. "Not your silence." Micah blinked. Tiana looked him in the eye, calm and proud. "I won't stop you from choosing her, but don't erase me from the story." She turned toward the door. Micah's hand twitched, as if to stop her, but he didn't, because Tiana wasn't running away. She was walking out, with dignity. Tiana walked slowly down the dirt path, the same one she had arrived on with fire in her chest. But now, her hands rested gently over her belly. Her eyes didn't burn, they shimmered. The sleek black car waited at the edge of the road. The driver stepped out, ready to open the door. Tiana paused. She turned around. Grace had stepped out of the hut. She stood barefoot on the step, arms crossed over her waist, wind brushing through her loose hair. Their eyes met. No one spoke for a moment. Then Grace said, her voice soft but sure, You'll never be alone. We are not rivals. We are mothers." Tiana didn't smile, but her eyes softened. She gave a slow nod. And in that second, something passed between them. Not friendship, not forgiveness, but respect. The kind only two women who've walked through fire can give each other. Tiana turned back to the car. She slid inside, closed the door, and the engine started. As the car disappeared into the horizon, Micah stepped out beside Grace. Hope ran out and wrapped herself around his leg. He picked her up with one arm and pulled Grace close with the other. He didn't look back. He looked ahead. And with a voice full of truth, he whispered, "This time, I'm staying." Do you think Tiana was treated fairly? Should she accept Micah's decision or start a new life on her own terms? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think.